Hello, my name is Kenny Hill with Recovery Hill in Fair Oaks, California. I'm going to do a series of educational videos, either 3 or 4 videos. We'll see how this goes. Talking about the window of tolerance, and it's foundational, and I mean that seriously. It's foundational to the philosophy of how I work with my clients and helping them sustain long-term sobriety. And so before I get into this, I want to do a quick disclaimer. I want to kind of clarify that the window of tolerance, for anybody who's new to it, this is not in any way, I'm not trying to steal anybody else's work. I'm going to take the work that's already been provided, that's awesome and very clear, and then I'm going to take that work and then I'm going to expand on the way that I feel like is helpful for my clients. Before I get into that, I want to do a big thanks here. That's what this slide is for. A big thanks to Doctors Marie Deslick and Laura Kerr. Their free online diagrams were huge for me, instrumental for me as I was beginning to develop, this frame of thinking and eventually creating my own program, Recovery Hill. And somewhere back in like 2013, 2014, 2015, somewhere in that time frame, I was really trying to, I had all these different conceptions of ideas that independently were real solid. And then as I began to try to figure out how to integrate them, I couldn't do it. I couldn't quite, there was something missing. They all felt interconnected and interlinked, all these different ideas. And then I stumbled upon, I think it was Dr. Deslick's diagram that's free online. You can just Google window of tolerance, and hers is one of the big ones that pop up that's most common. And I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was this light bulb moment. I'm like, that's it, that's the answer, that's the thing that helps begin to funnel all these different ideas into this one concept. And it was profound for me. And then later on, I think it was Dr. Laura Kerr's work that really, she had some more identifiers, and she kind of helped explain more into the details about some of these dynamics and symptoms and areas within the hypoarousal, hyperarousal. So both of their works were really helpful. Dr. Kerr also has this free online PDF that's very good and easy to understand. So I wanted to give a shout out to them. I'm not trying to steal their work or anything. The diagram is very similar to theirs. So make it clear this is their work, and I'm just using their work to help kind of bounce off of that in terms of what is helpful for my clients. So window of tolerance, this is your capacity for resilience. That's a good way to begin to start thinking about it. This is a window that begins to represents your capacity for your level of resilience. And what I'll say is everybody has a capacity for resiliency on some level, and some people's windows are itsy bitsy and some people's windows are naturally sort of larger. And instead of trying to get too lost into the whys of that, we'll start identifying the window of tolerance in general, and then begin to start to conceive how to progress it and grow it, no matter how large or small it already is. So as I was beginning to do my work within window of tolerance, and I stumbled upon Dr. Deslick, I'm probably murdering your name, sorry, and Dr. Kerr's work, and beginning to integrate some of that stuff into my own work as a clinician. Was listening to a podcast by Dr. Drew Pinsky, and he had offhandedly mentioned, and for those of you who don't know who he is, he doesn't get the credit he deserves because he's a celebrity doctor, but the guy understands addiction more than any other normie I'm aware of. The guy really understands addiction very well. So I was listening to his um, his podcast, or one of his several podcasts, and he had said this quote: "The problem is we're unwilling to tolerate normal misery." And he was talking about the human condition, and I want to kind of expand that out in terms of how I hear that quote. The problem is we're unwilling to tolerate normal misery. So the problem being this human condition, we being humans being intolerant of normal misery or avoidant of normal misery. The human condition is conditioned to avoid fear. We run toward comfort, seeking escape from misery, and end up complacent toward opportunity. And so I want to explain that out, because opportunity comes in the form of failure, and the avoidance of said failure helps us stay complacent toward the opportunity. That's maybe a mouthful. So let me try to identify that in this linear sense. So let's say over here, misery strikes for the human being, and the human being doesn't want to deal with that. It doesn't like it, so they begin to run away from misery, and they come over here to this place of comfort. And comfort isn't the problem, in my opinion. I think comfort is fine when it comes, but in order to place an expectation on it to be sustainable, that's a ridiculous expectation. It is not sustainable. And when it comes, enjoy it. And when you earn it and it comes, then really enjoy it. But for the most part, comfort is going to come and go. And so if you're seeking comfort because of the avoidance of this thing that happened over here, you're really not going to be able to find comfort. So misery hits, the person runs to avoid it, seeking comfort. But because they're trying to attain it by avoiding this thing over here, they're going to completely bypass it, come over here, and end up in complacency. And that's where they're complacent towards opportunity that otherwise should have been happening over here. I'm trying to get my hand on the screen over there. Okay, so that's the long and the short of this here, to try to help begin to intro and explain window of tolerance. So the next video here, I'm going to try to explain window of tolerance in a timely fashion. It might end up being in 2 separate videos. We'll see how this goes. All right.